Hey, hello, and welcome to She TV, the place women come to become powerfully feminine from the inside out. I am Candice Oneida, and I'm very happy and delighted and excited to be bringing a beautiful woman, Anya Grace, on today to talk about our topic, which is the feminine energy secret to creating lasting love and healing self-sabotage. So I just want to welcome Anya here today. Hey, Anya.
Thank you so much, Candice. I'm really excited to reconnect with you and to dive in.
And I just get a crazy itchy nose as soon as we start recording. we've got fires here at the moment, so things are a bit odd here in California. So I know that you've evacuated California, so you're not dealing with that. But it's so beautiful to have you here, Anya. I know it's been a long time. And I really wanted to share Anya here with you on this channel for a few reasons. She is the founder of Elevated Woman Trainings, and she's also a feminine energy coach and expert. And you may have noticed that I choose people very carefully here who I bring on. And in my interactions with Anya, she's always been a person of great integrity. And the way she teaches about feminine energy also comes with a lot of integrity. So I wanted to bring her on to share her way of talking about today's topic. And okay, so let's start. So we're talking about the secret to creating lasting love with your feminine energy effectively, okay? So where would you start? Like, what would be the first secret or the main secret that you wanted to pass here today, Anya?
I'll start with a bit of a personal story. That's always fun. Really, the content that we're sharing today, or at least that I wanted to share with your channel, Candice, is really, it's coming from my own personal experience of really working through this in real time. And, you know, for a long time in my life, love relationship and being with a partner and, you know, the whole vision of getting married, having kids and all of that it was like my highest priority. And I think a lot of women can resonate with that. And I don't believe that it's inauthentic to hold those desires. I believe that those desires are deep desires of the heart and true. But I also, through my own experience, have been seeing the ways that these desires can become actually distorted and really move out of the heart center and more into the head and the ego. And that's where I want to support women to actually move away from. Because if we're manifesting from that place, these things that we desire in our life, we're really actually calling in something that's not so congruent with our soul. So I personally had, I had the experience, you know, in the last few years of just really confronting these deep, deep, deep desires for love. It was like all I could think about. You know, I remember having this moment where I realized, okay, I've probably cried to my friends, cried to myself, you know, thought about, dreamed about, written about love and love relationships and the love of my life coming in probably for thousands of hours, you know, at least hundreds of hours in my life, realizing how almost desperate I was, how deep I desired this, but it was coming from this sad place, you know, so many tears shed over this subject. And if, you know, we all know about the law of attraction at this point. And I started to put the pieces together and realized that the energy that I was coming from around attracting love was totally out of alignment. And
like so many people, right?
Exactly.
Because they're influenced by things to take them out of themselves, not into themselves.
Exactly. And so from that point, I really asked myself, I said, what would happen if love never came into my life? If love never came into my life, what would happen? What then? And I really went through this exercise and process where I actually made peace with that with the possibility that love never comes into my life. And it was one of the scariest little portals to travel through and really sit in this, like, oh my gosh, what if that never happens to me? It actually gives me chills right now thinking about that moment. But for me personally, and I've actually led a lot of women through that exercise since then, I believe it sets us free, because we actually confront one of our greatest fears. And in doing so, it purifies, like I was saying before, anything that's been distorted, anything that's coming from the head and the ego, and actually gets us humbly in the heart center. And it was amazing. Within 2 weeks of doing that exercise and really ultimately committing to my own happiness with or without love, I met my partner. So it was magic how that happened.
Beautiful start, because with the conclusion that came from that, but also the fact that, in defense of the women that are listening, the distortions that you're speaking about are often really not, you're not to blame for that, in the sense that the influence of the world around us, the level of impact and speed at which you delivered messages that you're off, you're wrong, you need to look or be or think like something that is not you, something outside of you that takes you away from you, creates a lot of these distortions, or it definitely amplifies any internal ones. And so I absolutely know that Anya agrees with that.
Absolutely. Actually, that's one of the things I love about your work and your content and what you stand for, is you get the key to feminine energy so deeply, which it really, I mean, I feel if we were to boil down what feminine energy really, is all about, it's about going inward. It's about moving inward and activating the inner plane.
I always say that it's in the word feminine, in.
Wow. Oh, that gives me chills.
It's right there, ladies.
Wow, that straight up gives me chills. That's amazing. Yeah, and just like you're saying, and this is what I wanted to share with everyone next, is post that whole spiritual breakthrough and experience, I then, was in this beautiful relationship. And it was like the love of my life had come in, and we were in this beautiful 8-month sort of honeymoon phase that was so profound and so easy. And I literally remember saying to him, I was like, it's really cool that we don't have any issues. and because we never, for months, we never experienced a single fight, nothing. It was very smooth sailing, and really just magical and easy. And then things hit and all of this stuff started to bubble up and started to come up, and it started to get really, really hard in our relationship. And I every bit of my wounds were well, I like to say that I don't really like to refer to them as wounds. I think wounds are sort of the byproduct of the imprint of, like, the distortion. So, if we have a wound on our skin, but if there's an underlying infection, if we don't actually address the infection and we just address the wound, it's only going to come back. So what was happening is my wounds were flaring up, and the infections of these distortions that were in my psyche and my heart space and my energy system were all activated, and everything was coming up to the surface. So it was very challenging and very painful, because I was seeing wounds that I believe I've held from past lives, from early trauma, from this life, from just random fears that I hold. And so that's a kind of a slightly different topic. But the point is things started to get hard. And that set me on this whole other path of realizing that, how often I believe women believe, well, we all believe, men and women, I think, in the idea that when you're with the right person, you really kind of live happily ever after. and even if you know on a logical level that that's not how it is, I think on a subconscious level, on a deeper level, we have these deep beliefs from programming, you know, from our childhood, from Cinderella, from all the Disney Channel movies.
I call them the Hollywood and Disney myths.
Exactly. Yeah. Candice calls them the Hollywood and Disney myths. And I've been I called them the Cinderella complex, which is really the belief that when I meet the right person, I will finally be happy.
And birds will appear and suddenly everything's going to be, the sun will never set. And
right. Yes, exactly. And it's one of the most dangerous programs, I believe, we can get activated in our system.
And disempowering programs. It's incredibly disempowering, and that means it takes the power away from you.
Exactly.
Rather than realizing the power is inside you.
Exactly, which is why we titled this video, Cultivating Committed Love Through Your Feminine Energy, because when we have compassion for the high possibility that in, you know, a lot of women, at least in the Western world, that we have this program, this literally, it's like just a computer program that gets turned on, you know, button gets pressed and gets it running. When we have this program active in our field, it can make actually cultivating true love almost impossible, because we're approaching it and we're seeing true love from a totally distorted perspective and field.
Yeah, so you see the wrong people and you don't see the right people also through those distortions.
I love that.
Yeah, so which, as you and I know, attachment theory also points to.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with this whole, so the Cinderella complex, it's, and so that's sort of where, in my journey at least, I started to really confront these deeper programs that were running and that were active, and really looking at this thing where I was seeing this belief and seeing my partner and looking at our relationship and being like, well, this feels like the right person. I don't want to stop being in a relationship, but I'm not happy. I'm not experiencing that happily ever after feeling. And part of me was thinking, hey, the distorted part of me was like, that's your fault. It means you're not the right person. And that was where I was avoiding my own responsibility and really actually missing out on the opportunity for the healing that my soul has been waiting for its whole life. And so, you know, just to kind of synthesize this, I believe a lot of women hold in their field active the Cinderella complex or the myths. And when those are active, we believe that when the right person comes in, they'll be happily ever after. But the moment things get tough and it doesn't feel happy anymore, we can begin to see the other person and think, you might not be my Prince Charming. You know, this doesn't feel good anymore. But when we do that, just like Candice was saying, we put our power in the other person and we orient outside of ourselves, and we totally miss out on what's really meant to happen, what true love is actually all about, which, in my opinion, true love is this alchemical, you can imagine like an alchemical chamber. It's actually very esoteric, and I learned a lot of this from my mentor, Shannon Port, who founded the Art of the Feminine. You know, where I first heard of the alchemical chamber of love, where when in a truly divine love relationship, two people ultimately have entered into this chamber. Can you imagine the most beautiful, elegant, stoic vault? And the walls of this vault, the doors of this vault, everything is operating at the highest frequencies of love. Every truth frequency exists in that vault. And when two people exist in that vault, they may bring all of the distortions, all of the wounds, all of the pain, all of the trauma, and all of that can exist inside of this commitment, inside of the container of the relationship. But the power of committed divine love relationships is that once that container and those foundations, the boundary is really set, it's actually part of the purpose is to let rise all of the things that are not a vibrational match to true love.
And let's just stop there for a sec, because what I hear you saying is once you've created this alchemical chamber, okay, alchemy, for those that don't know, means, you know, it's used to be the same thing as chemistry, or they used to be combined and that they got separated, such that alchemy today represents when things are combined together or put together. There can be magic, there can be transformation that happens when things are put together. And so what I hear you saying, Anya, in this, your view here, is that once you've created the safe container, you've decided you're with each other and you're trusting each other, you're going to throw each other into the fire of the alchemical chamber, and you allow things to be cooked up. You allow things to come out of your energy, of your psyche, because the container's safe. So it's the opposite of what people would usually do, which is, oh, well, this person isn't right for me, so I'm going to eject them from my life. You go, this is mine, which I always say is the most powerful thing you can do is whenever you're triggered by anything, anywhere, anytime, if you are triggered, it's yours. It's yours to own, it's yours to discover, it's yours to source, to get to the foundations of, which you're talking about as the infection before, right? And this is not to absolve other people of bad behavior, by the way, but that's their responsibility, right? So back to what you were saying.
Yeah, and it's their responsibility, and it's our responsibility to not be okay with certain behavior. It's our responsibility to connect to truth and be able to voice, this doesn't feel good to me. This isn't in alignment to me. This is what this brings up for me. So a lot of women, I think too, can their distortions are actually distortions of being silenced and not having a voice and not standing up for their truth. Those are distortions just as much as yelling and screaming and fighting and blaming, your partner are as well. So their distortions can look all these different ways. That those infections, conditions, programs can look all different ways. But the issue with them is that they actually bring us out of our power and out of our truth. That reminds me, I do want to talk about the core code before this video ends, so we'll just make a note to that.
No, absolutely. At the end here, Anya actually has a very, very generous offer to whoever wants to take her up on it. So we're definitely going to get to that before the end of our time here. So yeah, just please continue. I think you're creating really great context, and I'm a big context creator. So
yeah, beautiful. Okay, I love this. It's so easy to talk. It's so easy to do this with you, Candice. It's like we just go right in, and it's so seamless. So, so to synthesize where we're at right now is recognizing that at this point when perhaps you may realize that you're in this beautiful committed relationship, and you might be at that fringe point. So this is really directed toward a lot of women maybe who feel like they can't keep relationships going, or they'll start off really strong and then fizzle out, or something will happen, or if they're just not satisfied in their current relationship. These are all patterns where it's likely there's conditioning that's running that's really just preventing you from really digging in and discovering that true power within yourself and that true authenticity within yourself. So really with this alchemical love chamber, I believe at this point that our love relationships specifically, all relationships are here to help purify us. And our love relationships specifically, the fact that it has love in that means that they're really one of our greatest healers. They're created through the frequency of love, and therefore anything that comes up inside of that container that's not operating its truest form has to transform. It has to transform and alchemize. And that's when we have these experiences where something that used to trigger us so much, now we can think about that thing and nothing comes up. No trigger, no charge. That's the power of committed, alchemical, divine love. Is it really has the power to truly purify us and make us stronger, because it brings us into our truth. And that being said, I want to share.
It keeps us in our truth.
Yes.
It demands that we actually stay aligned with truth rather than short-term harmony or short-term absolving of someone of bad behavior or your bad behavior. I think you said something to me the other day when we started talking about this interview about what was your terminology? Truth over
the core code. I don't remember what I said.
See if I can look it up.
Okay.
Truth trumps any lower frequencies. As soon as one person comes back to self-truth, then you're on the right path, essentially.
Exactly. And I think that is what's really powerful about this perspective too, is it, I know for myself, I used to be really afraid of my triggers because I felt like triggers always led to conflict. And I was afraid of the conflict because I was afraid of facing the fears that this might not be the right relationship. And I think then
also the fear that the conflict, the fear of our triggers is if I actually express that I'm triggered, I'm unhappy. If I express that that something's happening internally, that the ultimate conclusion somewhere down that track is you're going to leave me, that you're not going to love me anymore, that I'm not going to be what you thought I was, and this is not going to work.
Exactly. And so we can have so much compassion for those fears, which are so real in all of us. And yeah, at least this video hopefully can be an encouragement to continue the practice of really radical transparency and honesty, because that is truth, and truth trumps all. And just like we just said. And so in my experience, even though it's really scary to bring up those trigger points, and sometimes, my partner and I have been in, it feels like an alchemical just process for hours. And we're pulling out every bit of energy that feels not completely congruent and not completely aligned. And it's like, we'll even check in with each other and say, is there anything else? What else is there? And if we can create those containers, I have chills right now. If we can create those containers, what is so powerful is at the end, there's an experience of total connection and intimacy, but it's like this relaxed, pure, piercing, calm connection. Present. It's so transparent because there's nothing in between. There's no bad feelings or contracted energies in between the two people. And then we can just exist in our truth, And one really, really powerful visual is to realize, you can imagine two people meeting at a party, and you can see my hands, they're off of the picture right now. Two people see each other at a party. And at that point, they're attracted to each other and they move toward each other. And there's that honeymoon phase where it's just pure. It's very easy. But what we didn't see at the beginning is that right outside the picture were the shadows from those two people. And the shadows come in a little bit slower. And what can happen is right at that, when that honeymoon phase shifts, it's really when the shadows jump in between two people. And then person A is looking toward person B and feeling discomfort because what they're really seeing and feeling is their own shadow. They're looking through it from their shadow. And shadow A is here and person A is here, and they're looking at person B, but they're seeing their own shadow. So our responsibility, I feel, is to take these shadows, place them right outside the relationship, acknowledge that they're there, but then just as Candice is saying, recognize if my shadow gets triggered, it has actually nothing to do with this person, and that we can keep the purity and the clarity all the time and be able to, and we do that through our, elevating our communication, elevating our frequency, learning these skills where we are continuously taking responsibility and really, really, taking those moments and realizing that there's something in me that's coming up right now.
That's beautiful, Anya. And just for the women that have worked with me for a while too, this is why I also say that you you don't know this person for 6 to 12 months. So a process of commitment, because we're talking about committed relationship through your feminine energy, is sort of incremental, right? So of course you're going to commit at a certain stage, you know, if you're deciding to commit to have sex and to get to know them more. But what Anya's talking about is it's around that. I've seen it every time, around that kind of scope of the 6 to 12 months. That's when the monsters of the depths start to come out. But I love the way that Anya's portraying them as these shadows or whatever, monsters of the depth. But we're not saying that in a derisive way. It's just, it's human nature. You know, when you're falling deeper in love with someone, when you're taking them deeper and deeper into your heart, into your life, into your energy, into your body as a woman, right? It's incrementally vulnerable, and that's an incredible feminine power, is our vulnerability, right? And so as we're opening more and more, that's actually when these things are much more subtle. We get to actually very subtle parts of our triggers, and that's when we hope that we're both on board with each other. Because one of the things that's really striking me about what you're sharing here, Anya, is with your partner at least, and it's a great example where you're both on board for this alchemical ride. You're both on board for the chamber. You're both on board for the fact that you might spend hours bringing it out, getting it out, hashing it out, being realer and realer and realer with each other until there's nothing else. There's nothing else I can think of that I'm holding back of myself, good, bad, and the ugly. And it's incredibly emancipating if you can be in that kind of compassionate, radical honesty, I call it, relationship with somebody. And I love the way that you're portraying this, actually, Anya, because if you're that kind of person that seeks this spiritual experience with somebody, you need to have somebody who's also willing to do the work, right? This can't just be one of you. It doesn't quite work. You have to both be willing to do the work, to communicate like this, and to learn and to deepen as you progress through those phases. That 6 to 12 months can actually set you on a beautiful path to an incredible relationship, right, Anya?
Yeah. I have the chills in saying that. And it's not always so perfect and beautiful and easy. Like there's moments in those hours where we're, you know, it's not all the time that we're doing that, but there's been a few times where we really dive deep. And in that, I experience all of the triggers. It's like all of it comes up. So it's not comfortable, but it's required and necessary to get to the true, clear, pure, authentic connection where there's nothing in between. And we both recognized, Tim and I, you know, we both said to each other, we were like, well, I've obviously held these patterns long before you. These have been in me far before I met you. And if it's not you, you know, if it's not this relationship that I clear these, it's going to have to be another one. But I don't want to be with someone else. I want to be with you. I don't want this relationship to just be one that is for just healing and, you know, and we never really know. But it's like when you're with someone who you love enough to really do the work, it's worth it. It's really worth it. So
I think you're really pointing to something there too, just if we could, just back to the Cinderella myths that you're speaking about, what I call the Hollywood Disney myths, right? Part of the most insidious part of those myths is that it's easy to being in a long-term committed relationship, that it's not going to take work, that it's not going to take learning new skills, that it's not going to take a leaning in. And this may not have been so 100, 200 years ago. You know, people just got married and they stayed married forever and it was just a different world. But in the 21st century, human beings' relationships, for them to flourish, for them to deepen and to have longevity, we're talking about something else that is required of you and of the partner.
Absolutely. And what you just said reminded me of something that I think is really important. It's been twice now that you've said something that really, vulnerability isn't always easy to feel. And yet vulnerability is the bridge, is the energy that we must connect to if we want to experience true love and true intimacy and true power as women and as a human being. Because if we think it's just going to be easy, meaning I'll never have to feel vulnerable, is really, I think, what we connect easy to. But when we never feel vulnerable, that's actually not what we want in a love relationship. We want the rawness and the sacred tenderness of, we want to feel the preciousness of that relationship. And if we don't actually care about it, and we leave. We crave someone that brings us to our knees and brings us into that aching, breaking heart on a daily basis, because it's so precious and tender, and that's vulnerable. So we don't want it to be easy. We actually, I think one of the most powerful mindsets to move toward in creating, cultivating committed love is, I am willing to work on my relationship with vulnerability and get really comfortable with that slightly uncomfortable, tender rawness that is a little bit scary sometimes, because I know that if I can feel comfortable in that, then I'm going to have the richest life.
Absolutely agree. And I think I would also add to that, Anya, that this uncomfortableness to turn toward vulnerability is the true courage in life, as it is in relationships. That's courage as a human being, to be willing to be vulnerable with another human being to the extent that you show all of yourself, you speak all of yourself, you share all of yourself with someone. And it's through this courage to be vulnerable that you actually start to tap into this essence of life that is really the spark of the alchemy that keeps a relationship alive. Because what you think of as easy is invulnerable, and it ends up boring and ends up killing the relationship.
Exactly. Yeah. So really those programs set us up for failure no matter what.
Right. And this is what's so insidious, because I remember seeing my brother with his, his little children, and they're just, they're wearing all the Disney princess outfits, and it seems very harmless when you see little girls walking around like Disney princesses, and yet when they've done that for a decade or a decade and a half before they become teenagers into young adults, the programming's already there. And so I'm not that big on it myself for that reason, right?
I'm not that big on any. I was just saying in a video the other day, I was like, I think the only TV programs, because they're literally called TV programs, or channels, like a channel of frequencies, you're tapping into a channel. There's I think the only channels and programs that are like actually pure divine source energy are the ones that are literally about Mother Earth, that are just sharing Mother Earth and everything.
Explain why I watch so many Earth documentaries, because I just love them. They're so real and raw.
Exactly. It's true. And everything else is not. It's not true. It's been manipulated. It's been distorted. So
beautiful. Anya, what we want to do is we want to make sure that the women here just understand what you're offering them from here, because you've sort of given a beautiful explanation of the problem, the issue, the groundwork, the things in the background. What is it that you're going to offer the women here?
Yeah, I have a couple offerings. One, and we actually didn't completely get clarified on exactly which one we wanted to do, but I have a couple. One is a really powerful training called Cultivating Committed Love, and it's really everything that I'm talking about now worked into this powerful 3-day experiential, deep, energetic activation process where we're really going in and actually healing and clearing a lot of this programming. That's one of the programs that I have available for the programs that I have available.
We should call it a D program.
Yeah, and that's so funny. And then my other offering is I have actually a deeper 3-month mentorship, and it's called Goddess. It's feminine energy reprogramming is literally the title of it. And that's a deeper dive with me. And so there's a way to check that out as well. You can just click on the link, I believe.
And so basically, either way, what I think Anya's offering is we're going to put a link below where you can sign up to do a discovery call with her. And then you're going to work it out between you, which is the best route for you. Because Anya's, a very intuitive woman. She's going to put her vision on you, and she's going to help guide you in the direction that she feels is best for you, and then offer you what she thinks is the best direction for you moving forward.
Yeah. Can I say
one deprogramming or reprogramming?
Exactly. Can I share one final?
Please, yes.
All of this. Yeah. So what those two programs, reprograms, deprograms, are about are it's really getting down to this one key piece that when I told Candice this, she, I remember you were just really lit up by it, and it does sort of tie everything in, which is recognizing, like, I'm a big fan of women recognizing that what healing really is revealing the truth that's already under the surface, the perfect expression. That's all it is. It means healing is just removing and deleting the things that are preventing the pure expression of who we really are. And so when we, what the work I do, the best way to describe it is it's really about going into the energetic body and finding where the energy has been distorted and contracted, and purifying it, alchemizing it, transmuting it so that it doesn't exist there anymore. It's just like an acupuncture where somehow the needles, it opens up the channels, it removes blockages, and then afterward you feel pure and clear, and your energy is more vibrant, and you're literally more vital and more beautiful because more energy is flowing through you. So what I wanted to end with is really this description of how I think on a spiritual level, what we're really going for on this spiritual path is recognizing that in every single moment there is spiritual energy that's flowing to us. It's flowing through us. That spiritual energy does not have a preference. It does not go to one person over another. It's completely neutral and available for every single person, and really coming to us at equal levels. But as that spiritual energy comes into us, it animates us, and it moves through our coding and creates our physical existence, and it creates our energetic presence and aura. The problem is often our coding has been programmed or coded with these contractions of energy that distort the pure code. This is what I call the pure code your core code. Your core code is your coding free of any obstacle and distortion. It's who you are at the deepest level. As that energy comes in, though, the pure divine spiritual energy comes in, if your system is distorted, that energy gets distorted on its way out as it expresses through you. And that's why you attract the same situations again and again. That's why you are still struggling with a certain area of your life or a few areas of your life. That's why we see these patterns repeat in our lives. It's because we haven't known how or done the work to actually go in and clear out the code, clear out your core code, so that when you're, because really whatever is in your energy field is what you're attracting from. And all we need to do is clear it out and purify it, because when that happens, you are the most radiant, magnetic, powerful woman that you could possibly be. And that's already within you. It's just about deleting the parts of these energies that have latched on and do not belong. So I just wanted to share that at the end, because it's a really beautiful way of looking at, I think, our lives, and really looking at the spiritual path and realizing that we are already, it's less about becoming someone in the future and more about revealing who we have always been deep within.
Who we really are. Beautiful, Anya. Thank you. Thank you. And let's just open it up for the watchers to put any questions for Anya or myself down in the description box, because we will both come in here and answer them for you as best we possibly can. Also in the in the comments box, in the description box, we're going to have a link to contact Anya. If you feel like you resonate with her, as I always say, find your person. If Anya's your person, then please click on that. She's a fantastic woman. She knows her stuff, and she has very, very deep integrity. So as I said, that's why she's here, and I am recommending her to you. If you also have another topic or something piqued your interest in the conversation today, say, hey, I'd love to hear more from Anya about X, and then we can have her back. Yeah?
I love that. So
Anya, it's beautiful to spend time with you again today. We could just talk for hours and days on all sorts of these angles of these topics here. And let's find a time to indeed get back here to do this. So much, much love to you. And thank you so much for your beautiful presence and your incredible knowledge that you're sharing here with this channel. So
thank you, Candice. Such a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for watching. So fun.
Beautiful. Bye-bye, everybody. And remember, when you have the courage to go out there and shine, you give others permission to do the same. So let's all go out there and shine this week. Much, much love. Bye-bye for now.